Okay guys, these scenes coming out of Nepal right now are unlike anything they have ever seen before. So after they forced the Prime Minister to step down just a few hours ago, they have now stormed and set fire to the country's parliament building. That's the equivalent in the US, for example, of them setting fire to the US Capitol in Washington, D.C. Absolutely wild. In fact, some of the politicians inside had to be evacuated by army helicopters. They captured the country's finance minister, they stripped him down to his freaking underwear, they paraded him through the streets, and then threw him into a river. There's footage of all of this. They set fire to a bunch of different politicians' home residence, including Nepal's former prime minister. His wife was still inside and she was burnt alive. There's also been hundreds of prisoners who have now escaped jail, and this was because a bunch of protesters broke into the premises. Reports say 773 inmates escaped from one prison, while 127 escaped from a separate one. In fact, literally as I'm recording this video, the Nepal army has just said that they are going to be taking control of this situation.
People are lying on the ground and their brains are all over the place. Rubber bullets and tear gas, yes, but reports as well of live fire and police aiming for the head, not a one-off aim for the head, regularly aiming for the head. There's outrage, as many suspect the police deployed to quell the protests have been ordered to fire at people's heads, fire above the knee, as it were. And if that's true, that's not just necessary force to disperse the people, that's something more sinister, more violent. In the last 24 hours, the government of Nepal has said, quote, "We have withdrawn the social media ban," end quote. You see, over the last 4 days, the country of Nepal has been aflame, ablaze. Hundreds injured, at least 19 have lost their lives in nationwide protests, including, of course, the capital, Kathmandu. The reason? Corruption at the government level, including nepotism. The trigger, though, the banning of 26 social media sites based on shaky reasoning by the Nepalese state. Now you might think, Mahfouz, Nepal, really? This tiny country on the border of India? And I would say, Nepal has a population of 30 million people. That's like Saudi Arabia. That's like Syria and Lebanon combined. And I'd also say, what's going on in Nepal is not just important to the Nepalese, it's indicative. It's a sign. It shows a growing trend of how social media is allowing people to be more informed and often demand more from their government. Nepalese state spin, essentially, or media spin in Nepal is spinning this as it's only about social media, not about nepotism, not about corruption. And the population, the citizenry in Nepal are by and large saying, as reports confirm from the ground, from the country itself, it's not just about social media. People don't lose their lives so that they can mindlessly doom scroll on Facebook. But for their nation, for their families, for their people, for justice, for the removal or the fighting of corruption, yeah, people actually have and continue to put their life on the line. It's much harder, you see, now for governments across the globe to get away with perceived wrongdoing, to get away with wasting citizen money, tax money, right, without the people catching wind and voicing their complaints. And Nepal is the latest nation to be going through this great civil unrest, dubbed the Gen Z protests, because it's the youth who have led the charge onto the streets. The Nepalese government is now struggling to keep a lid on things, if I can phrase it like that. What was triggered by the social media ban was quickly reframed, reprioritized, and Nepalese people made it clear this isn't just about social media for us. It's not even mainly about social media for us. It's mainly government corruption. The government, as of this morning, 9th of September, has said they are rolling back the social media restrictions, and they've pledged to investigate the 17 civilian protesters who lost their lives in the capital, Kathmandu, and the 2 who lost their lives in the city of Itahari. A reminder that hundreds of people have so far also been injured. It's not just lives lost, is people wounded. From what I can see, Nepal's protests are not likely to be leverageable for geopolitical gain by other regional powers. Really, there is only one notable regional power to be of concern, and that is India. As the map shows, they have a long border, these two countries, but the economy in Nepal is small, 50 billion in nominal GDP, about the size of Jordan's economy. And an inflamed and unstable Nepal could prove detrimental to India, who would have to make sure there's no spillover, and that's a long border they would have to work hard in guarding. For the time being, we watch to see if the government's social media rollback in Nepal will be backed by the promise of further action, like against corruption. We'll be looking out to see if that's something the Nepalese government can promise the people. And will that be enough for the Nepalese people to stop protesting? Or will the country remain ablaze? Time will tell, as it always does. And I'll be here to report to you the news and the analysis, unbiased. The reporting is unbiased. I am a human being, so I have my biases. But the news continues to be reported unbiased and without the Western spin. I'm Mahfouz, or News Baba, and I'll see you on the next one.
Nepal is standing on the edge of a precipice. The Himalayan nation, a buffer state between two Asian giants, India, China. As of today, September 10th, 2025, the government in Kathmandu has collapsed. This is not just another headline. It's a developing situation with profound implications for regional stability. The streets of Kathmandu are tense. People are weary. The current turmoil is a perfect storm. A confluence of fragile politics, a teetering economy, and intense geopolitical maneuvering. The transition from a monarchy to a republic in 2008 promised peace and prosperity. Instead, short-lived coalitions became the norm, cobbled together by power, not vision. Horse trading and backroom deals eroded public trust, a system in flux, unable to tackle fundamental challenges. Nepal relies on tourism, remittances, and foreign aid, now all under strain. The rupee weakens, inflation soars, and reserves dwindle. Survival politics blocked reforms amid mounting debt risks for 30 million people. Every move in Kathmandu is watched in New Delhi and Beijing. The 2022 vote yielded a hung parliament and frantic negotiations. A convenience coalition, then a break over the presidential race, triggering today's collapse. The president calls parties to form yet another government. The weary cycle of talks resumes as national problems intensify. From civil war to the 2015 constitution, promise and contention. Geography, low industrial base, import dependence, shocks bite hard. The 2015 quake set development back years. Recovery stalled by infighting and bureaucracy. For centuries, Nepal balanced its two giant neighbors. Today, domestic politics risks becoming a proxy battleground. Corruption cases, even fake Bhutanese refugee scandal, shattered trust. Small parties withdrew, majority vanished, resignation followed. Nepal's crisis is political and profoundly economic. The numbers paint a grim picture. Growth cut from around 5% to under 2%. Investment pulls back, projects stall, capital flees, reserves sink, only about 6 months of imports. Trade deficit widens, global prices inflate the bill. Remittances, nearly a quarter of GDP, are a lifeline. Overseas job markets tighten, balance of payments at risk. Prices jump, oil, rice, gasoline, even bus fares. Higher rates curb credit and slow activity. A vicious cycle grips the economy. Beyond charts, ordinary Nepalis pay the price. Families cut spending on food, doctors, school, long queues for cheaper goods. Visible grief and anger. A young nation, too few opportunities at home. Public hospitals lack medicines. Schools decline, projects stall. Many leave. India, the Middle East, Malaysia sending money back but draining talent. Protests mostly peaceful for now. Frustration is building. Nepal nears a breaking point, its fragile peace at stake. Next, the delicate balance with India and China's growing footprint. For India, Nepal is not just a neighbor, it's family. Roti Bedi, open borders, shared culture and faith. Instability up north hits India's security and strategy. New Delhi urges stability and dialogue, calling it Nepal's internal matter, from Big Brother accusations to a lighter touch, less visible, more careful. The embassy works overtime with all parties, seeking stability friendly to India's interests. Quiet credit for fuel and essentials, steady FDI, and dominant trade ties. Yet disputes like Kalapani and fierce nationalism complicate influence. India must protect interests without appearing a bully. While India treads lightly, China moves boldly. Political, economic, strategic footprints deepen via Belt and Road. Loans and builds, airports, highways, hydropower. A proposed trans-Himalayan railway, Shigatse to Kathmandu. Beijing courts elites, parties, bureaucracy, security forces, study centers, sponsored visits, trainings, ideological affinities with left parties. Questions on loan costs, transparency, and construction quality. Debt trap fears linger, Sri Lanka as a warning. China can't replace Nepal's open border, cultural and economic interdependence with India. Beijing still seeks a friendly Nepal to secure Tibet and project power. Nepal is a frontline in India-China competition, a classic tug of war. Every decision, political, infrastructure, diplomatic, is viewed through this prism. Leaders play the India card and China card. Benefits now, risks later. Alignments with New Delhi or Beijing deepen domestic rifts. India needs a stable, friendly Nepal. No hostile use of its soil. It seeks trust, aid, projects, predictable ties. China aims to offset India's geographic leverage via roads and rail. Ensure one China adherence, cultivate a pro-China elite. Nepal's national interest must rise above proxy battles. The challenge: manage both giants, stay independent, leverage competition. Nepal stands at a crossroads. The next weeks and months will define years ahead. Another patchwork coalition is a band-aid on a gaping wound. Nepal needs a stable government with a clear mandate and long-term vision. Most likely, continued instability, weak governance, fresh collapse. Economy worsens, services crumble, unrest grows. Worst case, a systemic breakdown with regional security risks. Is there a way out? Fundamental political reform, electoral changes for stable governments. A new generation, untainted by corruption and power games. A national unity government could steady the economy short-term. Focus on stabilization, relief, and essential projects. But getting rivals to agree will be monumental. Nepal's future lies with its people and its leaders. India and China can encourage stability and support the economy, but cannot solve Nepal's problems for it. This is a wake-up call. Rise above petty interests for the national good. The world, especially India, must back Nepal's democracy and recovery. The stakes are too high to let Nepal fail. What does a stable future look like? Stable institutions, accountable leadership? The path is narrow, but possible. A stable Nepal, a prosperous Nepal, a democratic Nepal, markets that thrive, projects that finish, hospitals stocked, schools equipped, reliable power and clean water, young Nepalis building futures at home, talent returning by choice, not necessity. It starts with a mandate, reforms, and integrity, a common minimum program: stabilize, protect, grow, rebuild reserves, diversify exports, shield the poor from inflation, channel remittances into productive investment, engage India and China on Nepal's terms, choose projects by merit, transparent, sustainable, value for money, make federalism work, inclusive, consultative, responsive, address long-standing grievances, constitution in spirit and in practice, finish roads, bridges, power plants on time and on budget, revive tourism, safe, green, world-class experiences, hold leaders accountable, end impunity and graft, deliver services that earn trust. A stable Nepal strengthens South Asia. This is a test of neighborhood first, for all neighbors. The path is hard, but the direction is clear. With resolve and reform, Nepal can steady, then rise. A stable Nepal, a prosperous Nepal, a democratic Nepal, is essential for South Asia's peace and stability.